The vast, blue expanse of the South China Sea stretches infinitely, its surface disturbed only by the occasional ripple of wind or passing vessel. At 12:42 a.m. on March 8, 2014, the steady hum of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370's engines fills the cabin as it ascends from Kuala Lumpur International Airport. It is a routine night flight. Its destination, Beijing, just over 4,000 kilometers away. The passengers, lost in their thoughts of drifting into sleep, have no sense of the enigma that awaits them. Above them, the cockpit is calm. The crew, experienced and well-prepared, follows their familiar pre-flight checklist. The world, in that quiet moment, continues on, unaware of the profound shift that is about to unfold. At precisely 1:19 a.m., the last communication is made between the flight crew and air traffic control. Good night, Malaysian 370. The final words echo into the night. Then, nothing. As the aircraft climbs into the inky expanse of the night sky, it disappears from radar screens. For reasons unknown, Flight MH370 veers off course, its course plotted no longer by man or machine. From the perspective of radar and satellite technology, the aircraft simply vanishes. The next hours unfold in eerie silence. The vastness of the ocean remains unchanged, indifferent to the loss. No distress signals are sent, no mayday call issued. The crew is gone, the passengers unknown, and the aircraft, once gliding through the atmosphere, is now an uncharted phantom over the water. A search begins. Ships are dispatched, aircraft take flight, and the world holds its breath, waiting for an answer. Days turn into weeks into months, yet no trace of the Boeing 777 is found. The hunt, once a flurry of activity, slows to a grinding halt, leaving only questions and a silent expanse of ocean. What happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370? The search for answers, if there are any, would span years, drawing in experts, governments, and conspiracy theorists, all trying to solve a puzzle without all the pieces. But the story of MH370 is more than just a search for wreckage. It is a journey into the unknown, a mystery that challenges our understanding of safety, technology, and human frailty in the skies. Malaysia Airlines, a proud national carrier of Malaysia, had been operating for over 60 years, with a reputation built on reliability and service. It was an airline that flew millions of passengers annually, with routes spanning the globe. Flight MH370, a scheduled service between Kuala Lumpur and Beijing, was part of this vast network, a seemingly routine journey within the airline's established fleet. Yet, this flight, on a crisp March night in 2014, will become one of the most mysterious and tragic in aviation history. On board the aircraft, a Boeing 777-200ER, were 239 people, 227 passengers, and 12 crew members. The aircraft itself, a long-range, wide-body twin-engine jet, had been in service for nearly 12 years. Designed with safety and comfort in mind, the Boeing 777 was one of the most advanced and trusted airliners of its time, known for its stability and reliability. With a maximum cruising altitude of 43,000 feet and a range of over 15,000 kilometers, it was a perfect candidate for long-haul flights. The aircraft had been meticulously maintained, and its systems were up to date. It was equipped with state-of-the-art avionics, including the aircraft communications addressing and reporting system, CARS, a satellite-based system designed to relay flight data back to the airline's operations center. This system had been transmitting normal data until 1:07 a.m., when it suddenly ceased. However, the aircraft's final communication, its last exchange with air traffic control, came only 12 minutes later. The crew on board MH370 was seasoned professionals. The captain, Zahari Ahmed Shah, was 53 years old, a veteran of over 18,000 flying hours. including 8,000 hours in the Boeing 777. He was described as a calm, methodical pilot, well respected by his colleagues and peers. The first officer, Farik Abdulhamid, 27 years old, and with over 2,700 flight hours, was relatively new to the 777, but was known to be competent and well-trained. Together, they formed a crew with years of combined experience in aviation. Yet despite their qualifications, the events that unfolded on the night of March 8th would challenge every assumption about aviation safety and technology. The flight took off from Kuala Lumpur at 12:41 a.m. on a path that was as routine as any other. The weather conditions were favorable: clear skies, light winds, and no significant atmospheric disturbances. There was nothing in the environment to suggest that this would be anything other than another quiet, uneventful flight. However, as the aircraft climbed into the night sky, a critical and unknown event took place. Something caused the aircraft to veer off course, something that would remain hidden for the next several days, as the flight data and the aircraft's movements became more and more uncertain. The aircraft's disappearance was not immediate. It was not a catastrophic mechanical failure nor sudden weather anomaly. Instead, it was a gradual drift away from its intended flight path, unnoticed for minutes, then hours, as investigators slowly pieced together the puzzle from sparse data. At the time, the aviation world could not have predicted the scale of the search that would follow, an international effort, sprawling across continents, searching the ocean for a needle in an immense haystack. In the days following the disappearance, Malaysia Airlines' reputation and the safety protocols that had been built into their aircraft came under the microscope. Every aspect of the aircraft's design, maintenance, and systems would be re-examined, from the car's data stream to the cockpit's final radio transmission. The question on everyone's mind: how could an aircraft of this caliber, in what seemed to be routine conditions, simply vanish without a trace? As investigators would later uncover, MH370's fate was not as simple as a single failure or mistake. It was a cascade of events, each seemingly insignificant on its own, but together they formed a series of events leading to an unprecedented mystery that would capture the attention of the world. In the search for answers to the mystery of MH370, every angle must be considered. It is not just the disappearance of a flight. It is the intersection of the aircraft's design, the crew's actions, the environment it flew through, and the systems that guided it. Each of these elements plays a role in unraveling the final moments of the aircraft and the sequence of events that led to its disappearance. The aircraft, Boeing 777-200ER. The Boeing 777-200ER was a proven aircraft, favored for long-haul flights due to its fuel efficiency, reliability, and advanced systems. The aircraft in question, registered 9MO, had flown over 53,000 hours and completed 7,525 flights before taking off on a fateful journey. It was equipped with the latest in flight technology, including the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, ACARS, which transmitted data regarding the aircraft systems and performance to the airline's ground operations. Despite its advanced systems, it is important to note that the 777, like all machines, was subject to limitations. The aircraft was designed to withstand a wide range of scenarios, but no system is entirely immune to failure. In the case of MH370, it was not a catastrophic mechanical failure that caused the incident, but rather a series of failures that compounded upon each other. The loss of communication, the strange course deviation, and the loss of radar contact were all signs that something had gone terribly wrong. The aircraft's failure to send distress signals or respond to attempts to re-establish communication is a critical point in understanding the incident. In contrast to modern passenger jets, which often have redundant systems and multiple layers of safety, MH370's communication system had been intentionally disabled, or at the very least, interfered with. The lack of any immediate indication of mechanical issues or emergency suggests that the aircraft's disappearance was not the result of a sudden failure, but rather a gradual breakdown of the systems, possibly beginning with the loss of communication. The crew, Zahari Ahmed Shah and Farid Abdul. The two pilots on board were seasoned professionals, but each had their own story, one that became crucial to the investigation. Captain Zahari Ahmed Shah, the senior pilot, had a reputation for being a calm and meticulous professional. He had flown for Malaysia Airlines for over 30 years and had amassed an impressive amount of flying experience. He was highly regarded by his colleagues for his skill and demeanor in the cockpit. But as the investigation unfolded, attention turned to Zahari's personal life and his possible motivations. Speculation about his mental state and potential involvement in the aircraft's deviation from course was an area of intense focus. However, there was no definitive evidence that Zahari was involved in any intentional sabotage or deliberate act of misconduct. First Officer Farid Abdul Hamid, a younger pilot with just over 2,700 flight hours, was less experienced but still well-trained and competent. In the moments before the disappearance, the cockpit crew's communications were routine, suggesting no signs of distress or irregularity. In the final recorded exchange with air traffic control, Farid simply relayed a polite good night. However, after this exchange, something changed. Whether it was an act of human error, a system failure, or deliberate action is still not fully understood. The environment, the vast ocean and remote skies. MH370's flight path took it over one of the most remote areas of the world, the southern Indian Ocean. The region, vast and largely unexplored, is one of the most desolate on Earth. There were no major landmarks or airports within range for diversion or emergency landing, and the ocean was largely uncharted in terms of real-time satellite tracking of aircraft. The weather conditions on the night of the flight were favorable, with calm winds and clear skies. The aircraft would have been operating in standard conditions for a flight of this nature. There was no indication of turbulence or adverse weather patterns, which ruled out the possibility of a weather-related accident. The lack of storms or other natural factors makes the aircraft's deviation from its flight path even more mysterious, as there were no obvious environmental factors influencing the aircraft's course. As the aircraft veered off its intended route, it flew over an expanse of ocean so vast that it would take days, weeks even, to search. The search effort itself would span several countries and involve thousands of hours of scanning vast sections of ocean, an effort that would yield few answers for years to come. The system, ACARS and radar, a crucial part of the investigation, revolves around the aircraft's communication systems. MH370's ACARS system was disabled at 1:07 a.m. However, the aircraft continued flying for over an hour, transmitting data to a satellite ground station, albeit without any human communication. These satellite pings have provided key evidence in tracing the aircraft's possible route after it vanished from radar. The lack of any distress signal or communication from the cockpit is one of the most confounding aspects of the disappearance. Additionally, radar data played a pivotal role in determining the aircraft's flight path after it left Malaysian airspace. The aircraft's deviation from its flight plan and subsequent radar contacts as it flew across the Malacca Strait and into the Indian Ocean suggested that it was still under some form of control, despite the lack of communication. This raised several questions. Was the aircraft being piloted deliberately off course? Was there a technical issue that caused the loss of communication and the deviation? Or was it a failure of the aircraft systems? Ultimately, the data recovered from satellite pings and radar gave investigators a fragmented and incomplete picture, forcing them to turn to other sources of evidence, including wreckage found along the coast of several islands. The silence was broken first by a simple, routine exchange. "Good night, Malaysian 370, said First Officer Farid Abdul Hamid at 1:19 a.m. That was the last time the aircraft was heard from on official communication. From that moment, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 entered a new, chilling phase, one of uncertainty and mystery. Within the next few minutes, the aircraft, a massive, advanced Boeing 777, would deviate from its programmed flight path. But for a brief period, the outside world would remain unaware. At 1:21 a.m., the aircraft's transponder, the critical system that identifies it on radar, was turned off. This was the first sign that something was wrong, though it would take hours before the full scope of the situation began to emerge. The aircraft position was still being tracked by radar, but its deviation from course was becoming increasingly apparent. By 1:30 a.m., the aircraft had already turned sharply westward, away from its intended route toward Beijing. With no explanation from the cockpit, the aircraft's flight path seemed to change direction as though guided by an unseen hand, or perhaps through a failure of some key system. It was no longer on a trajectory to Beijing, but heading toward the remote southern Indian Ocean. By this time, the aircraft's last radar contact had occurred, and it was now flying without its transponder and with no communication with air traffic control. A series of handshakes, satellite pings, was sent from the aircraft to a ground station between 1:30 a.m. and 2:20 a.m., each one providing critical data. But without a response from the cockpit, the meaning of these pings was unclear. The aircraft position was still uncertain, and the inability to receive a distress call or any explanation from the flight crew raised more questions than answers. The key turning point came not in a dramatic instant, but through a gradual build-up of uncertainty. The aircraft was in the air for over an hour after losing communication, heading into an area of the ocean where no one could hear it or help. Was the aircraft flying on autopilot, or was there some sort of human control, whether deliberate or unconscious, without flight data or black box recordings? This was a question that would remain unanswered for a long time. It is here that the story of MH370 diverges from most aviation accidents. There was no immediate catastrophe. There was no explosion, no crash, just an aircraft without any clear communication, piloting itself into the unknown. The search efforts, which began almost immediately, were filled with hope and urgency, but also with an undeniable sense of confusion. This was not the sudden onset of disaster, but the quiet, terrifying disappearance of an aircraft into an expanse of ocean so vast that finding it seemed impossible. As the aircraft flew deeper into the Indian Ocean, its path was followed by a growing international search effort. But despite their best efforts, even the most advanced satellite systems could only track its course in broad strokes. By the time it became clear that the aircraft had flown far off course, it was too late to reverse the loss. In those crucial hours, as Flight MH370 seemingly drifted across the ocean, no one knew whether the crew was still in control or whether it was an automated system gone awry. The search grew into a sprawling international effort, yet no wreckage had been found, and the answers remained elusive. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 sent shockwaves across the aviation world, plunging governments, investigators, and families into a state of confusion and anguish. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, what was initially thought to be a tragic, though resolvable, mystery became a historical enigma that raised profound questions about aviation safety, communication, and the role of technology in the modern age of flight. Within hours of losing contact, the international search began, a coordinated effort spanning several countries, including Malaysia, Australia, and China, began with a laser focus on the southern part of the South China Sea, the last known location of MH370. But the search quickly expanded, and the realization set in. The aircraft's true path was far more uncertain than anyone had anticipated. The ocean, vast and remote, seemed to swallow the aircraft whole, offering no answers, only questions. Early radar data, and later, satellite pings suggested that the aircraft had veered westward before disappearing from sight. The complexity of the search was overwhelming. The primary challenge was the sheer size of the search area, a remote swath of the southern Indian Ocean. Over 120,000 square kilometers were scoured by ships, aircraft, and advanced sonar equipment. Yet no wreckage was found. Satellite data, which provided some of the first clues as to the aircraft's likely path, was pieced together painstakingly. In the absence of physical evidence, investigators were forced to rely on limited information, including the satellite handshakes that indicated the aircraft was still flying for a period after it lost radar contact. However, the investigation faced several challenges. No distress signals were received, and no cockpit voice recorder or flight data recorder had been recovered. The critical piece of evidence, the black box, which could reveal vital information about the aircraft's final moments, remained missing. Theories and speculations ran rampant. Some believed that the aircraft had suffered a catastrophic mechanical failure. Others suggested that hijacking or deliberate pilot action was involved. Yet, despite years of searching, none of these theories could be definitively proven. The investigation was becoming a race against time, as the clock ticked down on the 30-day battery life of the black box locator beacon, the most likely way to find the wreckage. In parallel with the search, the emotional toll on the families of the passengers and crew was overwhelming. The absence of answers left them in a constant state of uncertainty, waiting for a resolution that never seemed to come. For them, MH370 was not just a case of aviation failure. It was a personal tragedy, with loved ones lost in an inexplicable and irreversible way. Internationally, the search effort itself became a symbol of global cooperation in the face of an unfathomable crisis. Governments and private entities came together, pooling resources, technology, and expertise in a coordinated effort that spanned multiple years. Yet, despite the monumental effort, the wreckage of MH370 eluded discovery. It wasn't until 2015 that a piece of the aircraft, part of the wing, was found washed up on the shores of Reunion Island, nearly 4,000 kilometers from the plane's last known location. The discovery, though crucial, provided few answers. In the years that followed, small pieces of debris were found in various locations along the East African coastline, offering little more than fragmented evidence that MH370 had, indeed, crashed somewhere in the Indian Ocean. As the years passed, the search was officially called off in 2018, but the mystery remains unresolved. Despite the immense international collaboration and the vast resources invested, the question of what truly happened to MH370 persists. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 left the aviation world forever altered. What began as a perplexing mystery eventually transformed into a turning point in the way the industry approached flight safety, aircraft tracking, and global cooperation. In the wake of the disaster, a profound re-evaluation of existing protocols led to changes that would shape the future of air travel. The most immediate and lasting change came in the form of global efforts to enhance the tracking of aircraft in real time. Before MH370, aircraft were tracked using a combination of radar and satellite-based systems. However, radar coverage was limited, especially over remote areas such as oceans or mountainous regions. The loss of MH370 exposed a significant gap in the ability to track aircraft during portions of their flight, particularly when they were out of radar coverage. As a result, aviation safety experts pushed for the development of more robust tracking systems that could monitor aircraft constantly, even when they flew over vast, remote areas. In the years following the disappearance, several new technologies were developed and implemented. One of the most significant advancements was the introduction of continuous position tracking for all commercial aircraft. This was achieved by integrating satellite tracking systems into aircraft flight management systems, providing real-time location data. Now, all flights are tracked every minute, a vital step in ensuring that no aircraft can simply disappear from view as MH370 did. These changes came in part because of the collective global effort that followed the disappearance, urging aviation authorities to push for industry-wide reforms. Another important safety lesson learned from MH370 was the improvement in cockpit communication protocols. The flight's sudden loss of contact with air traffic control, without any distress signals or warnings, highlighted potential weaknesses in emergency communication. Aviation authorities worldwide began to review and enhance protocols for communication in the event of an in-flight emergency, ensuring that pilots and air traffic controllers would have clearer, more consistent lines of communication in case of crisis. In addition to these technical and procedural changes, the MH370 tragedy sparked deeper discussions about the role of human factors in aviation safety. The investigation into the flight's final hours raised questions about cockpit security, pilot training, and the psychological well-being of flight crews. While no definitive conclusions were drawn about deliberate pilot action or involvement in the disappearance, the incident underscored the importance of addressing mental health and human factors in aviation. But beyond the technical and procedural changes, the impact of MH370 was felt most acutely by the families of those on board. For them, the loss was not just an aviation accident. It was an emotional and personal tragedy that had no closure. The pain of not knowing what happened or where their loved ones were remains a scar on the hearts of those who lost family members in the crash. The family's tireless efforts to seek the truth became a symbol of hope in the face of overwhelming uncertainty. Their journey, a quest for answers that continues to this day, has been one of perseverance, resilience, and an unwavering demand for accountability. The memory of MH370 is a somber one, but it is not without purpose. The lessons learned from the disaster have made the skies safer for future generations of travelers. The search for the truth continues, but the legacy of Flight MH370 will be seen in the steps taken to ensure that no other aircraft will ever again vanish into the night without a trace.